Good day, I'm Marina Kim, and these are the latest news from Kazakhstan. The convicted director of the Kazakh Human Rights Bureau received an international recognition award right in the prison. Kazakh Justice Ministry announced no convicts will be amnestied in honor of the Constitutional Day. Meanwhile, experts claim of the constitutional crisis. How come the reality contradicts the main law of Kazakhstan? Norwegian Helsinki Committee representatives visited Evgeny Zhovtis, who is convicted in the colony near Uсть-Каменогорск, in order to personally inform the activist of the fact that he was awarded international prize for his achievement in the human rights field.
Two representatives of the Norwegian Helsinki Committee have arrived to the penal colony in Uсть-Каменогорск to visit Evgeny Zhovtis. They are intended to personally inform the lawyer that he was awarded an honorable prize, a diploma and a money award of $10,000 for the work in human rights sector in Kazakhstan and Central Asia. The foreign guests were freely allowed to enter the territory of the colony as opposed to the journalists who have gathered in front of the colony. Last year, Evgeny Zhovtis was sentenced to 4 years of imprisonment for the car accident that has resulted in the human death. The representatives of Norwegian Helsinki Committee have talked to the convict for more than 2 hours. After the conversation, the human rights activist has escorted the guests to the gates. This is the only moment when journalists were able to see the independent lawyer. The foreigners noted that Zhovtis has lost a lot of weight. Others work outside the colony, but he has to remain inside for some reason.
It seems to be the case that he is put under a kind of special regime.
The official presentation of the award will be held in Oslo. The solemn event is planned for September 9th. One of the members of the Kazakh International Human Rights Bureau will travel to Norway to bring the award.
Another convict, who is also recognized by public as a political prisoner, failed to appeal the verdict. The defense had filed 8 claims and none of them was satisfied. Sadikov wasn't present during the trial, which was closed for journalists. Next report has more.
The appeals instance of Aktobe region claims that the politician Aydos Sadikov has to be imprisoned for 2 years in the general regime colony. The judge Kusumbetov has made this decision despite the facts over the innocence of the accused. He rejected 8 petitions of the defending side, refusing to listen to the testimonies of the witnesses and oversee the results of the forensic examination. Moreover, Judge Kusumbetov didn't allow Sadikov's wife to represent the defending side, referring to the fact that she doesn't have legal education background. The judge also declared the process closed for the press. The judge is not interested to examine the evidence of his innocence. He is not interested to examine the objective information of the case. He shows this every time by rejecting the petitions. The popular Aktobe politician Aydos Sadikov was detained on May 24th for hooliganism accusations. 3 weeks later, the Aktobe court has found him guilty. The court process is full of procedural violations, says the defending side. The hearing protocols and evidence and the testimonies of the witnesses have disappeared. I was not able to watch the show any longer. When the judge said that they have found the disc, not explaining the nature of its appearance and who brought it, after the telephone conversation with someone, this audio tape emerged. The judge didn't give any explanations. Excuse me, but this is not a private body. Every move has to be secured. The democratic community is closely monitoring the case of Sadikov. People are outraged. According to the preliminary information, it is planned to transfer Sadikov to the general penal colony in Kushmurun of Kostanay region. The human rights defender Kuramshin says that the law allows Sadikov to remain on the territory of Aktobe region. However, the relatives and friends of Sadikov have no trust in justice after the court hearing.
Kazakh justice and penitentiary authorities are not going to announce amnesty towards the convicts, while their number will be significantly reduced due to the introduction of alternative punishment system.
Celebration of the Kazakhstan's constitution doesn't seem to promise amnesties for convicts who may have laid hopes for authorities' mercy. There's no amnesty planned in honor of the Constitution's 15th anniversary at the moment. In the meantime, more or less solemn events honoring which the authorities usually issue amnesties are over for current year, although 2010 was full of major celebrations, such as 70th anniversary of President Nursultan Nazarbayev. Even the senators believed the latter could serve good reason for the amnesty. Mr. Masimov, I solicit you once more to return to this issue. We're going to hold a major event, 70th anniversary of our president, and we could announce an amnesty in honor of this celebration. By the year 2015, the Justice Ministry intends to introduce the alternative punishment system. This way, the state body hopes to reduce the number of prisons inmates in the light of recent tragic incidents in the Aktobe prison and without having to refer to amnesties. It is also known that the Justice Ministry claims to introduce the single ward system. However, such type of control seems unrealistic in the entire country scale. It is being introduced currently in a number of the regional prisons. This actually implies one inmate per ward detention system. In addition, the security in the prisons are tightened as part of the OSCE recommendations. This will be monitored by the Public Observers Commissions regularly. There are many political prisoners apparently dangerous for public, are therefore held with criminals in colonies across Kazakhstan. Spouse of one of such prisoners, Evgeny Zhovtis, is discontent with the judicial system, which she finds unjust. I have an impression that those people who make these decisions can't even imagine their beloved ones to get into such situation, even in their worst nightmares. Amnesty has always been applied to convicts with no heavy criminal background, and I think our judicial system is too harsh and unjust. Last time Kazakhstan held an amnesty 4 years ago. Then, more than 30,000 people got freed. The act of grace has always been an indicator of the penitentiary system's maturity.
In the meantime, pro-governmental political scientists and oppositional party members are analyzing the constitution on the eve of its 15th anniversary. Next report has details.
Kazakhstan's constitution is becoming less democratic. All the amendments made in the document for the last 20 years of the country's independence implied fostering the power of the president. The leader of the nation, law granting Nursultan Nazarbayev unlimited privileges, including full-life governance, adopted this year, became a hit of the season. Peaceful assembly holding rights provided by the constitution is nothing but a declaration, as in practice the demonstrators are often persecuted by law enforcement bodies. Thus, experts made only one conclusion: the reality confronts the terms of the constitution. We're dealing with long-lasting violations in applying the laws of the constitution, which has been lasting for 15 years, and no one seems to care. At least there is no initiative, except for when our party, along with Zhovtis' organization, had developed a bill to bring the legislation in line with constitution 3 years ago. It still hasn't been reviewed by the Kazakh parliament, whilst it can change the constitution in 16 minutes if necessary. Political expert Tolkun Awelgazina thinks the opposite way. According to her, constitution hardly requires the changes, and the national policies provide the peace and stability in the country. Thanks to this constitution, we achieved a lot of success. We have successfully applied the national policies in many spheres. The discussions haven't resulted in concrete actions, however, the society is awaiting certain changes. Majority of surveyed people inclined to think that more than half of the constitution terms remains on paper. I think that our government's activities often don't comply with the constitution. I think it only observes it partially. I think it follows it completely, just like in every civilized country. I'm very proud of our constitution, country and president. In general, there are violations, of course. For example, the recent law on the importing the vehicles for personal use on lower tax rates limits citizens' rights to use their vehicles the way they want, thus violating basic rights to own a private property. I think this violates the terms of the constitution. Political scientist Andrei Chebotarev is not also keen on being delicate with his judgment, saying Kazakhstan is going to experience a real constitutional crisis. With each year, the gap between the interpretation and execution of the constitution is getting big, and no one actually seems to be rushing to change anything. If we take a look at the current way of Kazakhstan's society and state development process, then solving the issue of constitutional reform in order to transfer the constitutional democracy seems indeed problematic. Obviously, the current power is trying to hold back the drastic political reforms and not let the division of power between the president, parliament and the government. In theory, the Kazakh constitution looks most democratic amongst all Central Asian states. However, the practice is rather contradicting. Kazakhstan remains a country with regular human rights violations and where the most of the constitution is not executed. This means that upcoming celebration of it will be more declarative, as many citizens don't seem to believe it.
The incident that took place in the Almaly district court of Almaty confirms the facts of violation of citizen constitutional rights. Reporters who came to cover the trial were arrested without any explanations. Arrested journalists represent the Radio Liberty Kazakh service and 4 local newspapers such as Alash Aynasy, Ushkayin, Dorozhny Patrul, The Road Guard and Arda.kz. After being released by police, journalists tried to get hold of Gulzhahar Shinbekova, the judge chairing the session, in order to find out about the outcome of the trial. It produced no results, however, and the incident has all the chances to grow into a scandal. The Almaty District Court Chief Justice claims he knew nothing about the arrests and promised to investigate the situation. The Sinin Berim Amir organization, led by Ismatullah Maksum, preached the Sufism in Yasaut interpretation. This sect is closely monitored by the National Security Committee, while it has followers representing the political elite of Kazakhstan. According to unverified information, detained journalists are also members of the organization. Even in such case, it is illegal to limit their civil and professional rights to access the information. Kazakhstan is one of the top countries with most non-transparent raw materials contracts. This was stated by the Western Research Foundation's representatives during a thematic conference held yesterday. Samples of typical contracts between the state bodies and subsurface users were demonstrated during the event, although no representatives from neither parties attended it. Perhaps the transparency of contracts is far not a priority for them.
Revenue Watch Institute had publicized the outcomes of its 5-year research on the global subsurface use contracts in Astana yesterday. It appears only Kazakhstan had enforced taboo on this market, while the Information Access Bill is suspended again. Even if accepted, it doesn't necessarily guarantee solving the problem. Does the law actually regulate the access to such type of information, to disclose it? But you must understand that there is a national security information law, so if it will be referred to such category, then it is impossible. Transparency of the oil contracts is the necessity which is required by current situation. There are many confusing moments around them lately, such as complaints against the Karachaganak Petroleum Operating Consortium, the only oil and gas developer which Kazakhstan still has no share of. After filing several claims against them, the Kazakh government had offered a deal to own a share of the enterprise, which is going to be settled within 2 more weeks. Another example, criminal cases against Tengiz Chevroil, claiming the extraction rules violations, which were cancelled quite suddenly. Mr. Munbayev said in June that Tengiz Chevroil had violated the terms of the depth of the extraction, and just a week ago says there are actually no violations established. Who would know for sure if this is true or not? Were the contract terms accessible to public? Such rapid change of ministers' opinion the Western media had linked to the so-called Kazakhgate case. The Kazakh government's advisor of American origin, James Giffen, was accused in bribing the highest officials but was convicted for lesser breaches of the law only. Following that, the pretenses to Tengiz Chevroil were also cancelled. However, the state's attempt to be present in the industry didn't make it transparent enough, say experts. In general, the information is not transparent. Foreign investors reveal more than our own companies. It appears quite possible to buy the information on the content of the contracts from select legal firms if necessary. Many interested parties actually do so. Meanwhile, the absence of the corresponding ministries' representatives in the conference speak about the ordinary citizens have no hope to get transparency in how the oil money is distributed.
The Moscow Commercial Court had reviewed a quite unusual case yesterday. Kazakhstan's BTA Bank filed a lawsuit against the Central Bank of Russia and Federal Tax Agency's Moscow office. Since the BTA now is controlled by the state after the compulsory nationalization, the trial became a dispute between the state bodies of 2 countries. For more than a year, BTA Bank had been litigating its subsidiaries' renaming. Resulting from compulsory nationalization of the Kazakh BTA Bank, its Russian subsidiary became independent AMT. After losing the trial in the Moscow Commercial Court, BTA had decided to appeal the decision of the Russia's central bank, claiming it had violated the banking legislation. Yesterday, the court had made a decision failing to satisfy the appeal, thus confirming the rightness of not only the Bank of Russia, Federal Tax Agency, but also AMT Bank. It seems though the confrontation between the banks will continue for a long time.
The legal department, along with the credit organization's activities licensing department, had violated the federal law and central bank's regulations. We're going to appellate the decision. Upon receiving the motivating part of the resolution, we'll be able to formulate the basis for our appeal.
This is all for now. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.